Never ever take a no from someone who cannot tell you yes. I witnessed my white counterparts having no problems with the word no, either saying it and or when they received it. So I use the example of how they're like, listen, somebody tell me no, that's just getting me closer to a yes. And I learned that pretty much when I first started in my sales career. Before that, if I called someone, rather it was for an interview, whatever it was for, if I, whoever answered the phone, if I shared what it was that I wanted from them and they told me no, usually the buck stopped there, right? It was no, well, what's the next step? How do I get to the person? Is this the right person? It was literally, okay, well, the person told me no. And so that's it. Let me move on to the next person that I need to call. Well, let me tell you about the white people. That is nowhere near the actions that they take. And when I say they, I'm, speaking holistically from a mindset point of view. I'm not saying this applies to everyone, but for the most part, when it comes to being vocal and challenging the status quo, they have a blueprint for that. And if you pay attention to what is even happening in the country right now, you will see that that blueprint is powerful. No is literally the first step, right? No is not the finality of what's going to happen or what's going to occur. You really need to understand that there are additional steps that can literally flip that no on its head. And so that was pretty much the first lesson. And let me just give you an example. You know what? I'll give one example related to a big deal that I had, right? And when you deal with media, you deal with big numbers. They could be 7-figure proposals easily, right? And so when you're selling multicultural media, right? When you're selling media that targets what they're now considering the D, the E, and the I, or affirmative action, sometimes you come up against gatekeepers that don't get it, that don't want to get it, that don't want to even have that as part of their wheelhouse to have to deal with. And so a lot of times that word no would happen not because of any other reason than they wanted to deal with what was comfortable for them. And the gatekeeping was real. The no would usually be the next thing. Oh, no, we don't have the budgets, or our budgets have been allocated, right? But these were usually the most junior people. We're talking about the first line of people who review budgets. You have to be willing to, how do they say, throw caution to the wind, because you're going to piss off some people, right? If somebody tells you no, who thinks that they were powerful when they told you no, and then you come back and show them that, boo-boo, you really not that powerful, then there's going to be some animosity. Please, please, please make sure that whatever it is, if someone tells you no, do not let it just sit there. Just make sure that you're dealing with the same person that can also tell you yes. That was 1A, right? Never take a no from someone who can't tell you yes. But also, don't be afraid of the word no. We have been, as a society, not only afraid of the word no by telling people no, by saying no to people, right? We've also been afraid when we hear the word no. We look at it as a betrayal to someone. If someone asks you to do something and you tell them no, you feel like you're betraying. Or if they tell you no, if you ask them for something, you may feel like they've betrayed you, or that you're unworthy of whatever it is that you asked for. I think some of us, as we got older, started to learn the value and the power of the word no. But it took us so long. It took us so long when, for a long time, I witnessed my white counterparts having no problems with the word no, either saying it and or when they received it. So I use the example of how they're like, listen, somebody tell me no, that's just getting me closer to a yes. You know, you have to go, they had a whole methodology about it. So they would count, okay, I know it usually takes me about 50 no's before I get to a yes. So they would try to get them no's, you know, quick so they can get to the yes. And I may be, you know, inflating the numbers, but they had a whole methodology. Meanwhile, we have a complicated relationship. And when I say we, Black and brown people, with the word no, we were taught that both explicitly and implicitly that saying no can be disrespectful. Just think about in your own lives, right? How many times that you may have had to say no to someone and that relationship just faltered, or someone said no to you and you backed off of them. Sometimes you have to really understand that, and I like to always bring up the book, The Four Agreements. Stop taking things so personal. That's one of the agreements. Don't take things personal. You don't know what's going on in other people's lives. There was something special about how white people, especially in business, right, or negotiations, handled the word no. It was not internalized at all, at all. And that's why I have certain people that I look at for mentors, because I know that they had to go through many, many, many no's to get to where they are. And I want that for us. We're going to need that. There was never a need for them to apologize or over explain, right? Why the no's were the no's. They said the no's and went on about their business. Hopefully you realize that a no today is not a no for always, or may not be a no for always. It may be a no today, and next week it may turn into a yes. We need to let go of the complication that we have with both saying the word no to someone when it's crossing a boundary and or handling rejection.